welcome into the CHGO White Sox post-game show, coming to you live from our homes after the Crosstown series concludes. The Crosstown Classic concludes for 2024. The Chicago Cubs win tonight 3-1. They won last night 7-6. And as somebody told me at the game yesterday, I forget who, I think it was AJ, the first two games of the series ended 7-6 as well. So this is the only game that doesn't end 7-6, but all four games end with a Chicago Cubs win. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. We are being produced today by Sarah. Usually she jumps in.
That was me.
Good Sarah impression. And we'll be later joined by CHGO White Sox beat writer Vinnie Duber from Guaranteed Rate Field. We'll be talking about the Cubs sweeping the Crosstown Classic for the third time, the first time since 2013. The first time it happened, 1998. Some pretty bad years for the Chicago White Sox. We'll be talking about if we want to see more crosstown games. We are going to go from 4 to 6 next year, but Herb Lawrence says that's not enough for him. And we're going to be talking about the struggling Luis Robert Jr. Along with that, Vinnie Duber will join us from Guaranteed Rate Field, and we will meet Grady Sizemore for the first time. We don't have video or audio, but Vinnie's basically just going to tell us that he likes Grady Sizemore because he seems affable. But that is pretty much what's going on. We were at the game yesterday. We have seen the first game of Grady Sizemore's managerial debut, but Herb, I think what we need to lead with, I know that we can just complain about the White Sox losing baseball games. We've done it 91 times this year. But should we start with the Andrew Benintendi game? Because, of course, they lose during the Andrew Benintendi game. But last night, we saw a man possessed.
I don't know what has turned him into a beast, a Barry Bonds, a Albert Bell 98. But
to answer for those two guys, steroids. So maybe steroids.
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
He should do this shit earlier, man, because this guy, there has never been, and I'm sure stats will disprove me, but just watching every one of these games since he has started being a Chicago White Sox, I have never seen a stretch of games, even though I know people look at the home runs. I'm thinking that he's getting that bat around, and even the hard out he made today late in the game to Nico Hoerner was a rocket shot there. And so I don't know what's going on with him. I hope that this leads to a month and a half of him just raking and somebody getting really confused and really turned on by Andrew Benintendi on their Major League Baseball team. And we can find a way to offload the last 3 years of his contract to somebody else. And if he goes off, hell, he goes off because I'm good. I'm really good. This is a false thing. I'm congratulating him for doing it right now, but also I don't think it's real. I think the real guy is the guy that showed up for a year and a half.
Yeah, it'd be great if, he could turn what he's doing in a month into an entire year. A little too late also. We would have taken this in 2022. But anyways, or 2023? Was that the first year of this? Yep. Yeah, 2023. But I mean, good for him. I mean, finally, maybe just is a health thing. He threw out a runner at home yesterday. He threw out Pedro Armstrong. It was a pretty aggressive send from our guy, Willie Harris, who also had another aggressive send tonight. And Benintendi made the throw. Brooks Baldwin didn't. Brooks Baldwin was sleeping. Cutting that ball off. But I think it was just so surprising to see him have 2 home runs in the same game. And man, he was feeling good. Throws out Pete Crow Armstrong and then hits a homer to right field. And the next step at, he hits another homer to right field. We were going insane yesterday. And I love that both of them were under 100-mile-per-hour exit velocity. This man, even though he still is under last year's OPS plus, he's got me feeling good. This is probably the best month he's had as a White Sox. So keep feeling good. I think are 3-22 or like 3-24 in the games he's been feeling good. So he's definitely out there making a difference. He's the only player that's been above average over this horrible stretch. So we'll take it because we're not seeing anyone provide us any resemblance of professional baseball. But here's Andrew Benintendi finally giving us that. What stuck out from you in this game, or maybe even, yesterday's game or this entire series against the Cubs? Because it seems like the Sox were close, but just at the end of the day, the Cubs, a team that wanted to improve on their margins going into 2024, it seems like they were just better on the margins and they were able to get, very marginal wins across the White Sox. Because you got a run differential in the 4 wins of 5 runs. I mean, they were tight games every single time out.
Yeah, very tight games. And this is going to be my later point about this series in particular. Um, Whenever you play in front of big crowds, you're gonna raise your level of play. Like that's what you saw from the White Sox all four of these games. Even though they only scored one run today, you got Chris Flexen, who was walking the yard today, just absolutely atrocious. But he escaped many of those difficulties he put himself into. I think the Cubs left 7 guys on bases when he was in the game at that time. And so I think the White Sox raised their level of play. And that tells me that when they're playing in front of crowds like they did in Oakland, or a regular White Sox crowd that's not the Cubs, or coming up versus the Yankees where the atmosphere is electric, they play exactly how that crowd is. Their home record, it's not good. Even in bad years, these teams, why they don't set records for most losses in a season is because, for the most part, teams play better at home than they do on the road. The White Sox just play flat, and they have nothing to blame but themselves because of how they can't field the ball, and we saw evidence today. You alluded to the Brooks Baldwin play. He's a young player, but that's a really dumb play that he did, and the communication wasn't there. We've seen that through White Sox years, and it's usually in the outfield where a couple guys are not calling the ball or not calling it off loud enough, and so they run into each other. So out of this series and out of today's game, I take away that I knew they were going to lose even if they had a lead, but I like how they play versus the Cubs, versus teams that are perceived better than them. The Cleveland Guardians, how they've played this year versus them. So I know that there's something in there, but not enough talent. And so when you're on the margins already or below the margins already, things like the Brooks Baldwin play bring you back down. And I don't even know if you remember the play. It didn't even cost them anything, but the Cubs, dumbly enough, they bunted a guy. They were hitting, I forgot which pitcher was in at the time. They started the inning off with 2 runners on. And let's see, it was it Cody Bellinger? I forgot the inning, but
are you talking about the 8th? Was this the Swanson one?
Yeah, leadoff walk to Horner, single by Swanson, then they sack bunt over, and in that whole thing, when you see the out being made, whoever was covering second base at that, or the second baseman was covering first base, throws the ball over the pitcher's head, and the ball gets away from the pitcher. Luckily enough, the runner didn't score there, but those little things where you're just trying to execute a ball thrown from first base to the pitcher's mound, you can't execute them. That's why the White Sox are going to be continuously on this loop. And no, Grady Sizemore is not going to fix it in 2 days. And I don't think it's going to be fixed the rest of the year. So you're going to see dumb baseball being played all the rest of the year. Baseball IQ on this team is at an all-time low.
Yeah, and I mean, I like Theo's suggestion of player manager. I'm always for old school baseball stuff. We saw Frank Robinson be a player manager of one of the worst teams of all time, or maybe he was a player manager, I think, in 1975, and raked. So we'll take that. Maybe a 41-year-old Grady Sizemore wants to finish out September. Cool. But with Just Galaxy saying, I've liked Grady Sizemore in the first 2 games, the energy he brings, it seems like most of the team is responding. But I think you're right. It is mainly the crowd. It's the 38,000 people that were there. I don't think the people were fired up about Grady Sizemore. It's just mainly there's so many damn people in there. I mean, you're elbow to elbow with everyone in that crowd. The one thing I do want to poke a hole into your theory, though, about the White Sox playing better with more people in the crowd. I hear you. I think logically it makes sense. I think for an average baseball team, that makes sense. If there's a ton of, if there's more people in the crowd, especially at home, I think they will play better and likely win more games. But in the games where they haven't had 35,000 people in attendance, they have a win percentage of 24.7%, which you might say is pretty bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
In games where they have had 35,000 people in attendance, they are 4-17, which is a win percent of 19. So they actually drop off about 5% on their win percentage. This is one of the worst baseball teams that we have ever seen. I mean, it is just so pathetic. And when you do have such a talented player like Luis Robert Jr., and even for that fact, Andrew Benintendi and post-trade deadline, Garrett Crochet. I mean, you could say we really should have won those games, Corey. But at the end of the day, the White Sox are a extremely bad baseball team. they should not have won any baseball game. They're not guaranteed a win in any game. And even that 5-1 win that they had in Oakland, I mean, that thing felt shaky. You're trusting Bravia, you're trusting Anderson, and you're trusting Leone, and you're trusting Cool. It's like, this is not a major league bullpen. There's not a lot of major league hitters on this team. And the two that are, Benintendi and Robert, are not playing up to their typical standards. It is a horrendous baseball team. And I think you're right. Again, like, the more people in the crowd, the better. And I think the overall point that we'll get to later in the show of more Cubs Sox games would create a very unique atmosphere. I think the only thing that would be able to rival it is Mets and Yankees, or Yankees and Red Sox. Like, those two really bring out crowds. And I think that Cubs, White Sox, when these two teams are anywhere near decent, let alone great, they bring the absolute, fire. I mean, we were there in 2023 too, and we were up in the upper deck. I mean, that place was insane as well. So, no, I mean, I agree with you that if Major League Baseball wants more entertaining games, I think seeing 13 of Cubs Sox is a better idea rather than the 4 or the 6 that we're going to get. I'll take the 6, especially with them not being in the same division. But I guess you want to talk, should the Cubs be in the AL Central or the NL Central?
Or just like a total realignment. I mean, I know they're talking about bringing in a couple other teams, a couple expansion teams. So when they do that, I'm sure realignment would be on the table. And if you have Cubs, White Sox, Cards, Royals, and then another team in that division, maybe the Brewers, maybe the Twins. I mean, think about those games. And I was talking about this with you, I think, and a couple of people at the takeover yesterday. Like, I, as a old White Sox fan since 1990, remember hating the Milwaukee Brewers with a passion. Like, scrap iron, I hated Phil Garner when he was the manager out there. And because we had scraps, we had beef. Phil Gardner was throwing at our guys. We didn't like him. Hawk didn't like him, so we followed suit. Then they got out of the division, went to the NL Central. Now, right behind the Cardinals, you could say the Brewers are the Cubs' biggest rival because they play them all the time. I don't really hate the Cubs. Sometimes I don't like the Cub fans because they act dickish, and I know we are too here as the White Sox.
It's just most people.
Exactly.
Your fandom does not describe the type of person you are.
But imagine ratcheting up, like you said, to 13 games playing the Cubs with this type of atmosphere. Every one of the games is tight. Cubs got up to 7-0 lead yesterday. I thought the game was over because I know the White Sox not scoring. White Sox clawed back and kept the Cubs at 7 and clawed back and made that an exciting game. And all the games, 2 of the games at Wrigley, exciting. The games we went to last year, exciting. White Sox up 7-2 early at guaranteed rate. Cubs win that game in a comeback fashion. Same thing with the Chris Morel walk-off. Yes, they were bad for the White Sox, but the atmosphere, being at the game, it's electric. Don't let any of the Cub fans and your friends tell you that they don't care about these games. They care about these games with a passion. Like, you don't have to look any further than our first year doing our Crosstown Classic broadcast here on CHGO when we did it with the Cubs people. The White Sox won the first game, and it looked like Cody had lost the World Series that day. Cody Delmendo, who's a CHGO Cubs host. It means a lot.
It looked like he lost a family member.
Yeah, and if they front and they tell you, it doesn't matter, listen what they're talking on Twitter right now. I guarantee they're talking snack about the White Sox right now, which they should. They won 4 games. They swept us for the 3rd time in history. And we still got the season lead, the career lead, so calm down, Cub fans. But if we actually ratcheted it up and had those, firstly, attendance would go up, and it would give Jerry Reinsdorf more ammunition to maybe spend. I know he wouldn't, but still, he would have more money. But also, I think we would have a better chance of competing versus other teams because we would have that atmosphere for 12 to 13 games a year, and we'll be used to those type of atmospheres. And maybe that would just bleed over to the regular games that play versus the Twins or the Royals, where we don't get up versus those teams and we get housed by them. And so I just think that it's good for everything. The pocketbook, it's good for the teams to play better. It's good for the city to expose yourself. Like, how much better did it look tonight on Fox cameras that they had a full crowd at Guaranteed Rate Field, even though the White Sox are the White Sox and the Cubs are just kind of, right now.
Hey, everyone showed out. And I mean, I think part of this too, I mean, obviously social media has made things different, but like when you were in the 90s, I mean, the only place that you could tell the Brewers that they suck is at their face. So you have to go scream at Robin Yount that his mustache looks disgusting. but now you have the ability to vent on Twitter, which is great. But I don't know. I think part of it too is just like there's 38,000 people. Like, I don't really want to give Cody crap about the Cubs White Sox because it's not really that fun. I know he takes it way too personally, but like when he's next to me and the White Sox start to come back and it's 7-6, it is fun to mess with your Cubs fans like in that part. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I think that it's interesting. Anyways, let's take a break. Why don't we tell people about Liney's? We'll tell people about Mint Mobile, and then we'll reset this because my brain's going to crap.
Oh, good. When the weather gets warm, just any beer won't do. You want something light and refreshing. Leinenkugel has flavor the every summer moment for you. It's the perfect combination for the great outdoors, the great American pastime, or a great night out with friends. If you're at Cubs Sox, go to the Liney's Lounge. Go and get yourself a beer down there. Leinenkugel Summer Shandy always goes down really nice. Because yesterday I was at the ballpark. I'm getting Leinenkugel Summer Shandy. I got 3 or 4. Man, I was feeling all right. I didn't feel overexerted. I felt like, man, this is so refreshing to be at the ballpark drinking a delicious lemonade style beer. And this is what baseball is all about. This is what Summertime Chai is all about. If you want a beer that's similar to Summer Shandy, like you tried Summer Shandy and you want to go down the list of Summer Shandy type beers with the real lemon flavor and the beer that they bring to the table, you could try Lakeside Cherry, which real cherry grape juice, or Grapefruit Shandy with natural white grapefruit flavor, or Honey Light Lemonade with 99 calories and a sweet finish, plus classic crowd-pleasing brews like Leinenkugel's Light or Liney's Original. Flavor every summer moment with Leinenkugel, the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to liney.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO. Or pick up Leinenkugel's pretty much anywhere that they sell beer. Leinenkugel's, flavor of the moment. Celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls.
Yes. And when you find something that is binge-worthy, like a show or a song that you just keep putting on repeat, you have to share it with your friends so they can experience how awesome it is. And that's what it feels like when you discover that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. It's such an awesome deal that there's no way we can keep it to ourselves. So we are telling you about it. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and switch to Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your squad with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And you can use your phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with you and your existing contacts. So ditch the overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/White Sox. That's mintmobile.com/White Sox. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/White Sox. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower to above 40 gigabits on a limited plan. Additional taxes and fees and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, my bad. And shout out to Bacon, I believe Bo Bacon, in the chat that says recap of the Sox recrap, as my brain crapped out there. All right, let's get into what you're deleting pictures of Aloy? We can't give Aloy giving a thumbs up. You're on mute. No, I mean, what? You're turning into Ryan McGuffey here. You don't even want to see the man. You can't even see Aloy Jimenez anymore. Sarah, can you show the Aloy Jimenez thing? Have Aloy give a thumbs up.
I was just about to say, I was like, it's a good picture. I was
Frank
like,
Thomas isn't here anymore.
I mean, he's off the team. Frank Thomas is a Hall of Famer, though.
That one that's fine.
We got one of Ozzie Guillen, and he's giving a thumbs up. We got one of Vinnie Duber. Vinnie Duber's not on the White Sox. He's on our team, but he's not on the White Sox. Is he?
Sorry, Lloyd. No, Vinny's not here. I'm talking about Vinny's not here, but he's on our team. There, Mark Burley. That's Mark
Burley. There you go.
Yes.
I mean, I'm fine keeping the Aloy Jimenez one.
I'm just stopping the thing where somebody, you get Aloy on the cover. He's not even on the team anymore. You know how people don't like Aloy already. I'm just stopping that conversation already.
Let them complain. Who cares? I love seeing Aloy's smiling face. Bring him back. What are we doing in 2025? Bring him back. Come on. He can.
The bigger question and reason is people need to hit the like button.
There
just
you go.
hit the like button. That's the biggest thing.
Hit the thumbs up button. If everyone hits the thumbs up button, then Sarah doesn't have to flash. Eloy Jimenez and Herb Lawrence can sleep in peace. All right. Well, I want to bring up this thought as I was trying to stumble through it. I don't know if the AL would be okay with giving up the White Sox. I think that has to be the design, right? You have an AL team and an NL team in both New York and Chicago and even LA. And even, with when Oakland was in the Bay Area, you had the Bay Area separated by the NL and AL. Like, is that part of it? Do you have to trade then the Mets to the AL and the White Sox to the NL? Like, how do you work this out? Because yes, like, I think it'd be great for the White Sox and Cubs to play more games, but I don't think if we still adhere to American League, National League, that's just going to be an easy swap, especially with that being a charter franchise.
I hear you, but I think you just get rid of the American League and the National League. There's no more use for it. Frankly, there's no more use for divisions anymore. Like, divisions had their purpose back in the day where the common way to get to the next place was a train ride, Chicago to St. Louis. That takes X amount of time. Now we have flights. And so it doesn't take more than 4 hours to get to pretty much any city in America and contiguous USA. And so it doesn't really make sense to have divisions and or American League or National League anymore. If you just want to hold on to it to say you're American League champs or National League champs, cool. But all the rules are the same now. Universal DH, pitchers don't hit anymore. They follow the same rules. They have the same umpires. They've had the same umpires for a long time. So I think you just get rid of everything that is traditional and just move forward to what's going to make us the most money as a entity in Major League Baseball and what's going to produce the most excitement in our sport. And what produces the most excitement is rivalries, like you were talking about, the Mets and the Yankees for more times. You don't diminish the Red Sox and Yankees. You keep that the same number. If a person has a regular, natural rival that they play every year that happens to be in a different league, you up that. And if they're in the same league as they're currently in, like the Red Sox and the Yankees, then you keep that as the same. But you find less ways to play the Twins or the Royals or the Devil Rays or the Rays. I don't want to say a White Sox Rays game or a White Sox A's game in Sacramento. Who cares about that? No one's tuning in for that except for White Sox fans and 7 A's fans. So give me more Cubs games. I don't care if the Cubs sweep us. I have excitement at those games. Every time I watch those games, I have a great time. And apparently somebody wanted to get on the field today and then broke their leg.
Oh, they broke their leg?
Well,
I was listening to the radio and they just said there's a delay on the field. So I just assumed somebody ran.
Jumped on the field at center field, and I saw some of the pictures. They said that person couldn't walk, like he like crumpled, and they couldn't walk away or run away from the cops, and then they had to bring out a cart and delay the game in the 9th inning. So yeah, just dumb people. Never, ever, ever, ever jump on the field. It's not worth it. I think you go to jail, you get some type of fine with you, and now this guy's going to have a broken leg and going to go to jail and a fine.
Well, have fun. It's probably going to be fun to spend a night in jail. No,
with a broken leg. No,
why not?
Because they're going to be using that leg for different things too. You can't run away, brother.
Okay. Let's move on. So if we're getting rid of the AL and NL, White Sox, Cubs, Brewers, St. Louis, KC.
It sounds good to me, man.
I mean, but I guess we're still having divisions. I mean, what do you just want? Like
I know it's already radical to
like you just want like 15 games against your rival. Like that's the only thing that matters. I mean, it's kind of like even play against the 29. Like you don't even want divisions at all.
I don't need divisions, no. But I know that what I'm proposing is already radical. So me also radicalizing, taking out the American League and the National League and taking out of divisions is very, very radical. It's like not going to happen ever again. But this is just my ideal way of playing baseball. Just more excitement, more teams that actually care about when they're playing against each other, that don't like each other, and their fan bases don't have any love for each other either. Because these 4 games, while exciting, it's the smallest appetizer. I want the meal.
Yeah, I think you need to have like probably 2 rivalries or something Because you have, and I mean, people are going to be mad if you take away Yankee games from them. I mean, Toronto's going to be mad if you take away Yankee games from them. And Vinny is here, so we're going to be joined by Vinny in just a second. Well, honestly, throw Vinny into this conversation. Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer, is joining us live from Guaranteed Rate Field. We're going to talk to him about this 2-game sweep and Grady Sizemore's managerial debut. But Vinny, Herb is getting radical on today's Saturday edition, the Saturday Night Live edition of the CHGO White Sox podcast. Should we get rid of divisions and the American and NL League entirely?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks, man.
It makes plenty of sense, right? I mean, you've got you've got a system that's based on train travel from the early 1900s, and I don't think that really needs to apply anymore, especially when you're in a situation where everybody is fighting for a playoff spot. Give the best teams the playoff spots. I mean, there's no reason to box out teams, and maybe it's going to be a rare occasion. And as more playoff spots get added, you probably don't feel bad about certain teams missing the playoffs when there's teams that are 500 toward the end of the year still in the fight. But when playoff positioning is on the line, there's no reason to box out a team that has fared well just because they are exist in a certain division or a certain league.
Yeah, this conversation sparking from Herb and I wanting more Cubs Sox games. Obviously, we got 4 this year and 4, I think, since 2021 around the pandemic, since they reshifted the schedule. But now we're going to get 6 next year. We just want 15. We see the amount of people there and the energy. Was the energy consistent like last night at the park as well? I mean, it seemed very lively yesterday. I don't know if it felt lively again on Saturday.
It did. Certainly, there were equivalent amount of people here, so that makes a big difference. And Saturday night, and everybody's having fun watching baseball here in the city with the Crosstown games. But I think last night was probably a little livelier just because more stuff was happening. Right, there were a ridiculous amount of hits, over 20 hits, I think, between the two teams. So
7 homers.
Yeah, I mean that was an exciting game last night, and it came down to the wire too. Obviously, this one was a close one, but more of your traditional low-scoring baseball affair as opposed to last night's home run derby.
Vinny, let's get to the actual game action today. The thing that I have a problem with is just the Brooks Baldwin thing. I don't know what the situation is. What did Brooks have to say after the game? What happened to him on that play where he got the ball and had plenty of time to throw Cody Bellinger out at the plate?
He basically didn't think the runner would be going home. He didn't think the Cubs were going to send him. And he even said that, he did what you're supposed to do, which is check where the runner is when the ball is coming in, right? And he said he was only halfway to third base. How could he possibly have been sent home? And I think probably what it ended up being was it was a bad send that screwed up the play for the White Sox, because they figured there's no way that they're going to do that. And both him and Grady Sizemore talked about how, because there were so many people here, because it was so loud, can't hear his teammates yelling at him to throw it home. So he was basically trying to make a play at second base in case there was one, because he felt like the throw from Benintendi was good, which it was, and that they got the ball in quick enough that maybe they could have held the hitter Paredes to a single, but instead there was a guy going home, and by the time he realized it was too late.
I don't know if you interviewed Andrew Benintendi going back to last night after last night's game, but did you notice any creatine in his locker? What's going on with Benintendi? Why is he looking like Mark McGwire or Barry Bonds, whatever steroid guy you want?
He's on a nice streak. He's on a hot streak, and he was. I'll tell you this though, it was very apparent that the bulk of his White Sox career was fresh in his mind, because talking to him about how he's been doing so well lately, he said he was pointing to the fact that it could all go away right very quickly, and you could go 0 for your next 40 right away. So he's been a streaky hitter, mostly in the negative direction and during his time in a White Sox uniform, but he has had those bursts, right? And this seems to be another one of them, but we'll see if it carries over, because he's, being the experienced baseball man he is, and realizing what reality could look like in just a week's time.
You're going to fail 70% of the time and not succeed 30% of the time. We're going to take a break. We'll ask Vinny more questions and especially get his first impression of new White Sox manager Grady Sizemore after the break. But we want to let you know about our friends over at Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. Vinny, Herb, and I all have a pair of Shady Rays, and they have been our go-to sunglasses. We love our experience with Shady Rays so far, and plus they have extremely personal and fast support. If you don't love your shades, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. Their team will help you out. And if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. So just go and contact the nice people over at Shady Rays, and they will help you out. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
You know what? This is CHGO White Sox. We're doing a podcast 5 days a week. We do a podcast on the White Sox. The Cubs do the same. The Bears, Bulls, and Blackhawks have 5 shows a week. So we have those things for you here on CHGO. Premium written content by members like Vinnie Duber at ALLCITY.com. But you know the best way to access CHGO is going to be a diehard, because last night we're at the game with our CHGO White Sox takeover, and I hear behind me there's a guy who said, man, I was looking at all the rest of the markets. This ticket was $130. Then I realized that I was a CHGO diehard, went to sign up on the events page for the White Sox Cubs takeover, and the tickets were $50 cheaper than what they were offering on all the secondary markets. That's some of the advantages you get with becoming a diehard, because you get 20% off of all events. You get a free t-shirt when you sign up. You get access to our Discord, like AJ and Alejandro and Alex Rude and Sox Mom and et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of people on there, not just talking White Sox, not Cubs, Bulls, Blackhawks, or Bears, but they're talking about a vast array of things like pets, music, food, et cetera, et cetera. So you get access to that and become a member of our community, which is a nice, friendly community where we respect each other's opinion. And also 20% off of events like the CHGO second annual kickoff classic at Cog Hill, which is coming up on August 23rd. Not this Friday, but the Friday after next. You'll be joining us out there in beautiful Lamont, Illinois, and playing some golf with us to get a free lunch after the round also. And the Bears play today, and I know you're hyped up about that. Guess what? We have CHGO Bears tailgates coming up. You get 20% off of that also when you become a diehard. So go to allchgo.com so you get dope merch for all teams, a free t-shirt when you become a member, and access to our members-only Discord. CHGO, allchgo.com. Become a diehard today.
Vinny, last time we talked to you, we were discussing during our emergency podcast Chris Getz's thoughts about what the new manager of the Chicago White Sox will look like. And then on Friday, he introduced to the press corps new interim manager, Grady Sizemore. What have you taken away from your first interaction with Grady, and how has he kind of settled into the managerial role over the past 2 games?
It seems to be a very positive presence. I'll say that. Not that Pedro wasn't, but obviously Pedro had a year and a half worth of losing, that he had to wear every time he talked to us. Grady is getting a bit of a 0-0 start, so to speak, but he seems like a guy who's very well liked by the players in the clubhouse, and someone who, is just kind of has people rooting for him. It seems like now it's still kind of very strange. I mean, obviously the story has been told. He was an intern for Josh Barfield in the Diamondback system not very long ago, put on this major league coaching staff this year with kind of just an ambiguous title of major league coach, kind of a guy. And all of a sudden, here he is as the manager of the team. It's not going to last, obviously, as Chris Getz has talked about, wanting to hire somebody from outside the organization. But Grady Sizemore has been a refreshing presence, I think. And again, that's not to say that Pedro wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing other than not winning baseball games, but that the idea that the players like him, he's been kind of a different experience for us, even in the media the last couple of days. And I think the main thing everybody's leaning on is his playing experience, which was not too long ago. When when you're talking about a manager, you're usually talking about somebody, if they did play Major League Baseball decades ago, not as recently as Grady Sizemore has. But that's what the players jump to. Hey, here's a guy who knows what we're going through that can relate to us. Grady's talked about respecting that in his past managers, and even in some of the answers he gave tonight, like talking about Luis Robert Jr. and the struggles that he's going through, kind of being very upfront and saying, yeah, his confidence is probably hurt because of what's going on right now in terms of the results, but in terms of what he's been dealing with all season. So obviously that's another topic that I'm sure we'll be getting to, but that answer kind of jumped out to me and my colleagues as being something that you maybe wouldn't have heard from Pedro, who maybe would rush to defend Luis, or make sure that he was instilling his own confidence in him rather than being upfront about the experiences of a Major League Baseball player, which Grady can pass on.
I know where I was at least taking a little bit back that it was Grady Sizemore that took the interim job after they dismissed Pedro Grifol. Did Chris go into what went into that decision, and specifically him, and then what went into the removal or the dismissal of all the other people like Eddie Rodriguez, Mike Tozar, and especially what happened with Charlie Montoyo?
I mean, Chris basically sidestepped that part of it and basically complimented Grady Sizemore and said that this is the guy that they identified as being right for this moment. And maybe some of the things that I just was talking about did give him an edge over some of the other people who are on the coaching staff who maybe seemed like more logical choices. But he didn't really talk about why not Charlie Montoyo and others, and more so talked about why Grady Sizemore. So I think there's probably some truth, definitely some truth in what he's talking about in terms of this team liking Grady Sizemore. It's very clear that they do, both the front office, the players, but he did not go into the other part of that equation.
Bruce Levine tweeted this out, I think, before Getz and Grady met with the media with you guys on Friday. It was tweeted out on the 9th, so we haven't talked about this, and Getz, I don't think, was asked about it in his press conference, but Bruce tweeted out that Sizemore is under contract for 2025. Does that mean that regardless of how this finishes, regardless if they hire an outside manager, Grady Sizemore will be with the White Sox in 2025, or is that still yet to be seen? And if a new manager decides that he doesn't want Sizemore's presence because he's a former interim manager, that they would remove him? Or is this like Getz's guy where he has the ability to retain Grady no matter what?
I mean, I think the best answer to that question is maybe, right? I think the idea that, listen, you've seen in just the guys they promoted this week to be part of this coaching staff to fill in for the assistants who were let go, that there are people who can just be part of the organization, that there are guys that organizations like and like as part of their coaching staff, be it at the major league level or at the player development level. And so given all the praise that has been heaped upon Grady Sizemore, it would not be surprising at all to see him come back next year in some sort of role. But as you mentioned, they're going to have a new manager, and the new manager is likely going to have very significant input, if not, the majority of the input on who his coaching staff is going to be. And maybe the White Sox say, hey, listen, we love this Grady Sizemore guy. We think he's got a great future in big league coaching. We'd like you to include him on your staff because we think he's valuable. Or maybe they go, okay, you've got your guys that you want to have these jobs here next to you. We're going to take Grady Sizemore and put him in a different role. Or maybe they say, hey, we didn't expect to have to make all these big changes to the manager and the staff. It's time for other interests to be pursued, be it through Grady or the White Sox's end. So all of the above, I guess, are possibilities there, Sean. But as you've seen, particularly with this team, but of course with teams all across baseball, there are guys who stay coaches in organizations for years and years and years. Mike Gellinger, who they called up who they brought up from the player development side to be the assistant hitting coach now for the next 2 months on the big league team, has been with the White Sox for more than 30 years. So it's definitely possible for guys to stick around.
Now, Luis Robert Jr. is going through a slump, and all Major League Baseball players go through slumps, and it's natural. But this has been prolonged. In the last 30 games, he's hitting 171, 224 with a 265 slugging percentage, and only 3 home runs in that period of time while striking out, 51 times. Like, he just lost the plate. Today, I had zero confidence that he was going to do anything at the plate. What has Grady Sizemore or anybody on that team said about how this superstar is struggling, because I'm getting the impression that the 91 losses on this team is starting to get to most people, especially number 88.
I mean, Robert has looked awful lately at the plate. There's no sugarcoating that one bit. I think he's got 40 strikeouts in his last 20 games. I mean, you're right. He looks lost up there. Now he's Luis Robert Jr., so he has the talent to break out of it. And like you mentioned, slumps happen. But to go back to what I referenced earlier, Grady's explanation was pretty noticeable, or pretty, attention grabbing, we'll put it that way, compared to what other managers maybe would say in such a situation. And this is a guy who's had slumps. This is a guy who's had big injuries that knocked him out for more than the 2 months that Luis Robert Jr. was out earlier this year. And it's a guy who's been around a clubhouse during trade deadline time. And so he got up there today and said the confidence is probably, taking a hit a little bit for Luis Robert Jr. And maybe this season, which on the individual side for Luis, right, has featured a 2-month injury absence and trade deadline rumors, that threw some uncertainty into his, day-to-day life. So, to have a former player in Grady talk about very matter-of-factly how those things are very realistic causes of maybe some mental, issues in terms of performing over the back half of a season. It was attention grabbing. I don't know if Luis would say the same thing. We didn't. He didn't talk after today's game, but he's usually pretty upfront about his confidence and his belief in himself. But to hear that even speculated or informally whatever, but by Grady was interesting.
Yeah, and just to pile on, the Luis Robert has been bad numbers and has honestly looked like dog crap. The only player besides him to not get a hit this series was Patrick Wisdom. Patrick Wisdom had 3 at-bats. Robert had 10. So there you go. I guess technically Vargas didn't get a hit. But he did walk twice. So we'll take that. And just to add on, DJ on the radio call said his swing looks sweepy. Something between the ears needs to click. In the first 133 plate appearances this season, 229 average, 316 on base percentage, and a 509 slugging percentage, 6 doubles, 9 homers. And then the big thing that we haven't seen, 15 walks to 43 strikeouts in the last 96, 165, 208, 242, 2 doubles, 1 homer, 5 walks, 39 Ks. And the biggest thing is, like, at least swing stat-wise from StatCast, what we have, the bat speed is similar. It's a little slower, 75 miles per hour compared to 74.1 miles per hour. The length of this swing is the same, 7.7 feet. And the launch angle is similar, 15 degrees. The exit velocity is actually up over the bat sample, 3 miles per hour, which I don't really understand. He's really hitting it at the same degree and launch angle. The BABIP's the same. The only thing that's really just up is the whiff percentage, 35% from 28%. So he's whiffing a little bit more, and it seems like those walks are down. So that's the biggest thing, is he's just not drawing those walks. Those walks are converting a lot more into strikeouts. And I mean, outside of that, it's just, kind of unlucky, because you look at when he gets on base, he's stealing bags fairly efficiently. You see him tonight make a fantastic defensive play. It's just with the wooden bat, he cannot make any contact at all. And it is extremely frustrating to watch, because, I mean, it felt like it, in the stadium yesterday, like the Cubs wanted him up. They knew how to get him out. They just couldn't get anybody else out. And, we're talking about Nicky Lopez up here, who you're picking off the bench with 11 points in click to pick. He
got to make something happen. Got to make something happen, Sean.
Absolutely. So Vin, I do want to maybe get clarification. I don't know if Getz talked about this, but how involved will the front office be with Grady throughout this process? Will Chris be involved from a day-to-day process, or will somebody in the front office be involved from a day-to-day process to maybe simplify this for Grady? Like, hey, these are the guys that you can use in the bullpen tonight, and maybe this is the order we want you to go, or this is the lineup, and we're not really going to have you mess around with it. Like, does Grady have autonomy here, or is Grady having some strings pulled a la In Sync, no strings attached?
Well, I think there's 2 parts of that, right? Which is to address the last part there, or rather, I'll do the first part first. Chris Getz in the front office have had daily input for the entire time they've been in charge. And that goes back to when Rick Hahn was the GM as well. I think if you were to ask, you'd hear them use that Bears word collaboration over and over again, right? Because, this is the way that baseball works now, is that the front offices hire a manager who will work with them and their analytics departments and all the other stuff to in concert. I mean, they're having meetings every single day, when Pedro Grifol was the manager, and I'm sure that will continue with Grady Sizemore in the interim. The other part of that is how Grady's going to act. And I think that while Grady is the guy making who has the final say on managerial decisions in the games, right? He has talked, amply about how this is going to be a team effort with the rest of the coaching staff. He talked about conversing with Marcus Thames before he wrote the lineup, and he talked about how he's going to handle the bullpen by leaning on Ethan Katz and Matt Wise. So I think there's going to be a lot of voices down there, not necessarily all trying to make one decision, with 12 guys trying to make a decision independently of each other. But Grady can just turn to whoever and say, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about this? And while there's maybe pressure on a guy who has a permanent job like Pedro Grifol did to show that he's, the guy that is making those decisions, that he was the right man for the job, maybe there is no pressure on Grady Sizemore in the interim, and he can just say, I don't know, what do you think, Ethan? Or I don't know, what do you think, Marcus? Kind of thing like that. So I think the idea is that it will be a team effort, but that also extends to what you were talking about there, and that extends to the front office and them all trying to work as one big group to make these decisions for really a nightly basis.
Yesterday we went to the game and we saw Garrett Crochet start that game. We only expected in our own mindset him to go 3 or 4 innings anyway, but yesterday was absolutely rough. Gave up 4 home runs, 7 earned runs yesterday. Anything wrong physically with Garrett Crochet, or just the rough outing yesterday?
I think it makes perfect sense that you would ask that question, right? I mean, here's a guy who is soared past his previous career high in innings, and a guy who literally the storyline all year long is he going to be physically able to continue this deep into the season? But according to Garrett Crochet, that's not what it is. And he said that it is a mechanical thing. He wasn't able to execute specifically with his cutter, but in general on one side of the plate. And he says it's something that has been a problem now for 3 or 4 weeks, but every time out, he's been like, oh, well, it's just because I didn't have my stuff, or, oh, well, it was for this reason or that, when yesterday, I think, kind of woke him up to the fact that, hey, this is a problem that's been lingering for a while now. He called it an easy fix that he can address in the next bullpen session, and we'll see if that's the case. But that was the explanation that he gave after the game.
All right. I mean, how long do you feel the leash is for Crochet? Do you think we'd be seeing him pitch into September?
According to what the White Sox have said about what they want for him, yes. That is the idea, is to get him the experience of pitching on this full schedule, even if it's only 2 or 3 innings at a time at this point, right? Now, things can change. And I think that the thing that Pedro always said when he was still the manager about this was, there's no blueprint, there's no roadmap with this specific situation. We have to be flexible and able to change. So if this becomes an issue, or if anything that currently doesn't exist but could pop up becomes an issue, then maybe they will have to do something like that. Maybe they will have to shut him down. But so far, everything we've heard from the White Sox is that they'd like to avoid that. And I think you're seeing what the strategy is. Hey, we're only going to let him throw 60, 70 pitches every time out. But we'll see if that's how it continues. And my expectation is that they will try to get him to the end of the season. But I also know that they're not going to, do something that is detrimental to him just to try and avoid shutting him down.
Anything about Yoan Moncada in the recent times? Because I haven't heard a word from anybody in a while. So I'm assuming he's back down in Arizona, trying to get back here to the major leagues. But tell us what's going on with Yoan.
Yeah, I asked Grady about it before the game, and he basically said, he did say, I can't tell you whether he's going to be back with us or if he's not. And I think that is a reflection of them playing a waiting game to hear from Yoan, because what we heard was that the doctors said he could play and that he is still feeling something. And that's fine if you're an athlete and you don't have confidence in your ability to physically perform. If you think you're going to go out there and get hurt, you got to listen to the guy whose body it is, right? But that being said, now they're just basically checking in every day and being like, you better, you confident in yourself? Are you worry free? And so far they have not gotten the answers that would put him back on the field. So, you got the interim manager saying he can't tell you if he's going to play for the team again this year, or in Moncada's case at all.
You tweeted out something interesting from Grady. You said that though Pedro Grifol said the Sox would play Miguel Vargas all over, Grady says he wants to give Vargas consistency and expects him to play third more often than not. And I find it funny that he says that Vargas feels comfortable at third, but Pedro recently said that he feels more comfortable at second base. Hey, maybe he's just excited to have a home and play anywhere consistently. But why do you think this switch, especially with going back to the previous question, Getz and Hahn have been involved from the front office. So why do we see this switch from manager, from Pedro to Grady? Do you think they've learned more about the player specifically?
It's possible, right? It's possible that even just in this short period of time that Vargas has been with the White Sox, they've moved him around enough to think, okay, we have figured out a place where we do want to see him play. But whether it's a timing issue of just when this managerial change was made or not, it was a stark contrast to the last we heard from Pedro, who was wanting to use Vargas's flexibility and wanting to see what he could do at a variety of positions. Now he has played a variety of positions, albeit very briefly in his short time with the team. But now we hear from the interim manager that he's going to basically play third base all the time. And I think that versatility allows them to move him around if they need to. But for the most part, it seems like they want to see him at third base.
Vinny, I don't really have anything else for you. I mean, just this atmosphere that you've gotten the last couple of days. I mean, the next couple of days in Chicago, the White Sox will be playing the Yankees. I mean, what is the ideal for I don't even know where I'm going to go. I'm just like, my brain is frazzled. Sean had it earlier. I have it now. So sorry, guys.
Kai Busch pitching in the next series.
My head is gone. Sorry,
guys. He is, yes.
Woohoo! Kai Busch. Yeah. No, I get it, Herb. Hey, maybe we'll get a laugh out of this. Vinny, is there anything else from the ballpark that we need to know, whether from Friday or Saturday? No Sunday game. We'll be back with everybody on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday for Yankees post game. But any other news or notes that we might have missed?
I don't think you need to know this, but if you were wondering why the ninth inning took so long, or the bottom of the ninth inning took so long to get going, we had a couple of yahoos out on the field. Don't do that, by the way, folks. You are going to go to prison if you do that. That's not good. The first one was your stereotypical, guy running around trying to make security miss him and eventually being apprehended. But the second, I believe it was another man, seemed to fall out of the stands in left center field and land on the warning track and severely injure himself. He needed to be taken off on a cart while he already had been, again, apprehended by security. They didn't need to chase him down. He was lying there injured on the warning track, but they brought the cart out from center field and took him, off to, I'm assuming, first aid and then to jail.
And probably the hospital along with just to treat his broken leg. 9-foot wall there, not an easy fall.
Don't do that, people.
No,
don't do it.
So
Vinny will call you a Yahoo,
though, right? They definitely go to like real jail, or is there a jail in guaranteed rate field?
Well, I think there's both. I believe if you read there is no back of your ticket anymore, but I believe it used to say on the back of your ticket that it's like a felony or something, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's something like it's. While you shouldn't do it, and I don't think anyone should do it because it is dangerous on numerous levels, I don't know if it needs to come with that severe of a penalty, but it does, so don't do it.
Well, the game was delayed like 16 minutes, and then Neris comes in, and then there's a weird play at second. Grady has to come out, and then someone throws something on the field. So, like, that game, that bottom of the ninth inning had like 19 more minutes for no reason besides people being stupid. So just don't be stupid. Let people go home.
Some of us wanted to beat Metallica traffic, but now, thanks to those yahoos, it's not going to happen.
Well, hey, Vinny, maybe I'll delay you just a little bit. Axminster says, don't let their quit rub off on you. And if you guys think I'm quitting on you, please do not doubt me. Of course, I have some maybe I was huffing some paint earlier, right? Maybe I've caught some fumes of something that I shouldn't have. Sarah, we have graphic number 1. Andrew Benintendi's been hot, and let's get him off the damn team. All right, we're trading him this offseason. He's going back to New York, and we got to get creative with this. He's been looking better, but hey, this is a fat contract, and so is Giancarlo Stanton's.
Oh, God.
New York receives Benintendi, $49.3 million for the next 3 years. The White Sox get Giancarlo Stanton, $66 million for the next 3 years. There's a difference of $16.7 million for you that are math challenged out there. Because the White Sox are taking on that $16.7 million, they get 2 prospects. Francisco Villarreal, he's the 21st prospect according to Baseball America at their midseason update for the Yankees system. He is a right-handed outfielder. He will be 18 in October. And also Clayton Beeter, who is a part of, I believe, the Dodgers system. He's the 14th ranked prospect. He's dealing with a shoulder injury, so this is kind of a buy low thing. Maybe you could get him from the Yankees because he is a little bit injured. And then Sarah, you're not keeping Giancarlo Stanton. You need Giancarlo Stanton on a 100+ loss team. So they're going to take Stanton's contract. They're going to take on a little bit more money, right? They're going to probably take on a little bit more than $10 million to make sure that this trade happens. But they're going to trade him to Tampa. Tampa is not going to have a DH next year. Tampa would be able to use, I think, Giancarlo Stanton. So you trade Giancarlo Stanton and $59.3 million. Tampa has to cover, I think, about like $6.4 million over the next 3 years instead of $66 million. And the White Sox, Sarah, if you could flash that back up, get 2 more prospects. They get Braylor Guerrero, the 15th prospect in the Rays system. He's an 18-year-old. He's a left-handed bat outfielder, throws righty, and a Gary Gilhill, which is a fantastic name, a grade 80 prospect name. And Gary Gilhill is the 5th prospect in the Rays system, 20 years old. He's a right-handed starting pitcher. Guys, is this possible?
No.
Okay. All right. That'll do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast.
I mean, no. The Yankees.
Why not? Who says no?
The Yankees. They've hung up immediately. You're like, all right, Yankees, cool. We want Giancarlo Stanton. They're like, all right, cool. Are we getting Luis Robert? I mean, he's a little down. That's tough. Garrett Crochet. Oh, that's all right. That sounds good. Andrew, click.
How good do you think Giancarlo Stanton is? He's 36 years old, and Brian Cashman is bagging him before the offseason, saying that he can't play. Andrew Benintendi can play left field for you, and you're getting $16.7 million that you could spend on somebody else.
No.
Vinny is raising his eyes as he wants to go home. All right.
Well, what I was raising my eyes at was what you were saying, because while Giancarlo Stanton is not the player he once was, he's got a 111 OPS plus. At least he had it coming into tonight. Andrew Benintendi's is 79, Sean.
Exactly.
I'm not really seeing the equivalency there.
Well, hey, it's a buy low candidate, and you're paying less money. The White Sox are taking on money. You're basically freeing up money, and worse things worse, you get a left-handed bat. I mean, he's better than DJ LeMahieu. He's feeling good.
Also, the second graphic was confusing because it had the White Sox getting Giancarlo Stanton twice, which is confusing.
Sarah, you want to flash that?
It says, Chicago receives.
No, the second one. No, that one makes it. Oh, yeah, Tampa Bay receives. Yeah, Chicago. So that trade wouldn't make sense. The White Sox are going to trade themselves money. All right. Yeah, and also Stanton's 34. I mean, that's my thought. I mean, he's just so injury concerned. I mean, I understand Benintendi is as well, but Benintendi's younger. He's cheaper. I don't know. Anyways, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. He can play the field. I mean, Stanton can't.
Verdugo.
He's a free agent after the year. You didn't think I looked into this? You didn't think Stanton's Soto's a free agent too? I mean,
and that's the one thing.
$16.7 million to put
if it wasn't the Yankees or Dodgers, I would like maybe, but because they're not trying to offload payroll, they don't care about offloading payroll. They'll just like, I'll re-sign Alex Verdugo for less than Andrew Benintendi,
I guess. All right. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. That's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. Good luck in traffic, Vinnie Duber. We are thankfully safe at home. So poor
Nothing else matters, Vinnie.
We do feel bad. Hey, nice one. There you go. I'm about to have Sandman enter my room because I'm going to go to sleep. You can follow me because it's a little bit of a stretch. All right. Follow us at CHGO_White Sox. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. We'll talk to you on Monday. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.